Have you ever found yourself in a room where the game is on and felt as though you were observing reality through a different dimensional frequency entirely? The volume climbs. The commentators crescendo into something approaching hysteria. Every eye in the room locks onto the screen with an intensity that borders on hypnotic, as if the outcome of this singular moment will somehow reshape the fabric of their existence. There's a thickness in the air, a tension so palpable you could almost reach out and touch its edges. Something important is happening, the room tells you. Something that matters deeply. And yet, inside the quantum field of your own consciousness, there's nothing. No spark, no magnetic pull, no sense of anticipation coiling in your chest. Just a clear, almost crystalline awareness that you're witnessing something designed for a different frequency of human experience. It's not boredom in the conventional sense. You're not disengaged because you're distracted or tired. You understand what's happening. You know the score, the stakes, who's winning and who's facing defeat. You can follow the mechanics if pressed. But emotionally, the signal simply doesn't penetrate your field. It's like hearing a language your mind technically recognizes, but doesn't dream in, doesn't think in, doesn't feel in at its deepest levels. This moment often arrives wrapped in confusion, sometimes tinged with something heavier. You wonder, quietly, if perhaps something fundamental is broken in your wiring. Why does everyone else seem to vibrate at this frequency while you remain untouched? Why does this singular event generate such powerful emotional waves in them while leaving your inner ocean completely still? Most people never pause here long enough to investigate. They either force themselves to mirror the collective enthusiasm or silently conclude that they're somehow deficient, that they're missing some essential component that makes them fully human. But what if this moment deserves more attention than we typically give it? What if this isn't apathy at all, but rather a form of awareness? What if this is simply the precise instant when you realize, with sudden clarity, that this particular configuration of meaning, this specific frequency of excitement, this way of organizing collective consciousness around competition and tribal identity, simply wasn't calibrated for your nervous system, your unique pattern of attention, or the specific pathways through which your mind connects to meaning? That realization, when it finally crystallizes, isn't a loss. It's not a deficit or a failure. It's actually the beginning of understanding something profound about how your consciousness actually operates, about the quantum mechanics of your own attention, and the specific frequencies at which your spirit resonates with reality. Once you notice that the signal doesn't land for you, that your consciousness doesn't entangle with the collective field in this particular way, something else usually follows. You become acutely aware of how other people react to this fact about you. In a culture where sports function as a universal language, a shared code that unlocks instant connection and common ground, not speaking it fluently can quietly mark you as different, as somehow operating outside the normal bandwidth of human experience. When someone asks with genuine enthusiasm, "Did you see the game last night?" and your answer falls flat, there's often a pause, a micro-silence that expands just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it's followed by a joke, an attempt to lighten what suddenly feels heavy. Sometimes it's a look, one that communicates without words. "Really? You didn't watch?" And from that moment, like ripples spreading across water, assumptions begin forming in the collective consciousness around you. You're antisocial, they decide. You're emotionally detached. You're trying to be different on purpose, performing some kind of contrarian stance to appear interesting or intellectually superior. Or worse, in their eyes, you just don't get it. You lack some fundamental capacity to understand what makes this beautiful, what makes it matter, What makes it worth the investment of time and emotional energy? The lack of interest gets interpreted as a lack of something essential, as if enthusiasm for the game were a basic emotional requirement for belonging to the human tribe. As if the ability to entangle your consciousness with 22 people chasing a ball were somehow encoded in our DNA as a non-negotiable feature of a properly functioning nervous system. What's rarely considered, what almost never enters the collective conversation, is that disinterest isn't rejection. It isn't superiority. It isn't emotional emptiness or spiritual bankruptcy. It's simply a mismatch, a fundamental incompatibility between what a culture has collectively decided is meaningful and what actually resonates with a particular configuration of consciousness. Psychologically, and this is crucial to understand, we're deeply uncomfortable with people who don't mirror our excitement. Their neutrality feels like judgment, even when it contains no judgment whatsoever. Their calm feels like criticism of our enthusiasm. So we label it. We pathologize it. We transform what is simply a preference, a different frequency of engagement, into a defect that needs correcting. And that's where many people begin internalizing a story that isn't true. They start to believe there's something missing in their psychological makeup, some crucial component that failed to develop properly. When in reality, nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. They're not resisting connection. They're not incapable of belonging or bonding. They're just not connecting here, in this specific configuration of collective consciousness. Understanding that distinction, truly integrating it at a cellular level, changes everything about how you move through the world. To understand why sports hold such a powerful, almost gravitational grip on so many people, you have to step far outside the stadium, beyond the modern world entirely, back into the quantum field of human prehistory. For most of our existence, stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, survival depended absolutely on belonging to a group. Your tribe wasn't just your social circle. It was your protection, your probability of continued existence. It determined whether you ate, whether you were defended when danger approached, whether you lived long enough to pass your genetic information forward into the future. Being accepted by the collective meant safety, meant survival, meant your consciousness would continue. Being excluded meant danger, meant isolation, meant the very real possibility that your story would end prematurely. The human brain, through millions of years of evolutionary pressure, learned to take this very, very seriously. It built entire neural architectures around the problem of belonging, around the question of tribal acceptance. Modern sports, and this is where it gets fascinating, plug directly into that ancient wiring. They speak fluently in the language that the most primitive parts of our brain understand instinctively. At their core, sports create a clean, emotionally charged, beautifully simplified version of us versus them. Your city against theirs. Your colors against theirs. Your side, your tribe, your chosen family against the enemy. The stakes feel genuinely high even when nothing material is actually at risk, even when the outcome has zero impact on your physical survival. And yet your nervous system responds as if something real is happening, as if the outcome of this contest will determine your position in the tribal hierarchy, your access to resources, your likelihood of survival. When your team wins, your brain releases dopamine and testosterone, powerful chemicals associated with reward, dominance, and victory. When your team loses, stress hormones rise, cortisol floods your system. Studies have shown that fans experience measurable, quantifiable hormonal shifts after games, biological changes that mirror the same patterns our ancestors experienced after successful hunts or territorial victories or conflicts with rival tribes. This isn't metaphorical. This isn't some loose analogy. It's physiological. It's happening at the level of your endocrine system, your neurotransmitters, your cellular biology. The brain, in its ancient wisdom or perhaps its ancient blindness, doesn't distinguish between a symbolic victory and a literal one. In 2008, researchers observed significantly higher testosterone levels in men whose preferred political candidate won the U.S. presidential election compared to those whose candidate lost. The context changes, the arena shifts, but the mechanism remains constant. Sports are effective precisely because they offer a safe, socially sanctioned, culturally approved way to activate the tribal brain. You get all the belonging, all the emotional release, all the sense of shared identity and collective purpose, without the physical danger that once came with it. You can experience victory or defeat, triumph or tragedy, without actual warfare, without actual violence, without putting your physical body at risk. For many people, this feels grounding, energizing, almost sacred in its ability to connect them to something larger than their individual consciousness. And none of that is accidental. None of it is random. It's the result of systems, both evolutionary and cultural, that have been optimized over millennia to speak fluently to one of the oldest, most powerful parts of the human mind. Here's where the misunderstanding usually deepens, where the collective narrative becomes particularly distorted. When sports ignite something primal in most people, when they activate ancient circuits and create powerful emotional experiences, it becomes very easy to assume that anyone who doesn't feel that ignition is missing a fundamental human instinct, that their tribal wiring is somehow broken, that they're operating with incomplete psychological hardware. But psychologically, neurologically, that isn't what's happening at all. The tribal switch isn't broken. The ancient circuitry isn't damaged or missing. It simply doesn't flip as easily, doesn't activate in the same situations, doesn't respond to the same triggers. Everyone has a threshold for what activates belonging, what creates that sense of tribal identification. For some people, that threshold is remarkably low. Geography alone is enough. The city you happen to be born in, the team your parents happen to support, the colors you grew up seeing on weekends, these arbitrary accidents of location and timing are sufficient to trigger deep loyalty, profound emotional investment. For others, that threshold is significantly higher. Loyalty, for them, needs to be earned through shared values, through shared effort, through shared creation and meaning-making. It can't be inherited by accident or assigned by geography. It requires something deeper, something more intentional, something that resonates with their specific frequency of consciousness. From that perspective, sports fandom can feel strangely arbitrary, almost absurdly disconnected from any real basis for loyalty. The team you're expected to defend with emotional intensity was determined by where your family happened to live at one arbitrary point in time. The players themselves change constantly, rotating through like temporary actors playing predetermined roles. The owners are distant figures whose loyalty is tied exclusively to profit margins, not to people or place, or any meaningful connection. Franchises relocate overnight if the financial calculations make sense, abandoning entire cities of devoted fans without hesitation. And yet, despite all this fluidity, despite all this arbitrary changeability, fans are asked to offer unwavering emotional devotion, to invest their consciousness and their nervous system energy into something that could literally disappear or transform completely by next season. For some minds, for certain configurations of consciousness, that arrangement simply doesn't compute. Their nervous system pauses. It asks a question that most people never articulate consciously. What exactly am I being asked to attach to here? What is the actual object of my devotion? When the answer doesn't feel real, doesn't feel reciprocal, doesn't feel rooted in anything stable or meaningful beyond collective agreement, the signal fades. Not out of cynicism, not out of superiority, but out of clarity, out of a fundamental honesty about what creates genuine connection. This doesn't mean they reject belonging. It doesn't mean they're incapable of tribal identification or collective consciousness. It means they're selective about it, discerning about where they invest that precious quantum of attention and emotional energy. Their tribal instinct is reserved for places where connection feels mutual, where it feels stable, where it feels meaningful in ways that don't reset with every season or dissolve when the financial projections change. Communities built around ideas, around craft, around shared purpose that accumulates rather than resets. Places where effort compounds, where investment today builds something that matters tomorrow and next year and a decade from now. So when the tribal switch doesn't flip during the game, it's not indifference. It's not coldness. It's not emotional deficiency. It's discernment. It's the quantum mechanics of consciousness selecting, with precision, where to entangle itself with collective energy. For many people, this difference doesn't suddenly materialize in adulthood like some psychological mutation. It forms quietly, gradually, long before anyone ever asks, "So, who's your team?" Our nervous systems are shaped early, programmed at the quantum level by what feels safe, what feels regulating, what feels meaningful in the specific environments we grow up navigating. In some families, sports function as a sacred bonding ritual. Weekends revolve around games like planetary orbits around a sun. Emotions are shared openly, expressed loudly, and contained safely within predictable rhythms. For a child developing in that specific energetic field, sports become neurologically associated with connection, with safety, with love. The game becomes encoded as a pathway to parental approval, to family belonging, to the warmth of shared experience. But that isn't every childhood. That isn't every energetic configuration. Some people grow up in homes where noise already meant tension, where the frequency of loud voices carried a very different signal. Raised voices didn't signal celebration. They signaled conflict, danger, unpredictability. Crowded rooms full of heightened emotion weren't energizing. They were overwhelming, sometimes even threatening. In those environments, the nervous system learns something different. It learns to stay alert, vigilant, protected. It doesn't learn to relax into collective excitement. High stimulation doesn't feel fun. It feels like something to manage, something to survive, something to escape from when possible. Others grow up in families where emotional connection wasn't built around shared spectacles at all. Attention came through conversation, through creativity, through work, through quiet presence. Meaning was found in depth, not volume. In intensity of connection, not intensity of stimulation. In those homes, identity formed around internal worlds, inner landscapes, rather than external displays and collective performances. Over time, across thousands of interactions and experiences, the brain adapts. It begins to associate safety, to associate regulation and well-being, with focus, with solitude, with one-on-one engagement, rather than group intensity. This isn't avoidance. This isn't dysfunction. It's regulation. The nervous system is doing exactly what it learned to do, what it needed to do to maintain equilibrium in its specific environment. There's also a subtler layer here, one that operates almost at the quantum level of psychological development. Some children learn very early that emotional investment without control can be risky, even dangerous. When outcomes are unpredictable, when disappointment isn't held well by caregivers, when the emotional weather changes suddenly based on external events, the brain becomes cautious. It becomes very careful about attaching itself to things it can't influence, to narratives it can't control. Watching others win or lose on your behalf, investing your emotional energy in outcomes determined by strangers, may never feel rewarding if your system prioritizes agency over spectacle, creation over consumption, participation over observation. So by the time adulthood arrives, by the time the question, "Who's your team?" becomes a regular part of social navigation, the orientation is already set. Not because something went wrong, not because some crucial developmental window was missed, but because something adapted, because consciousness configured itself in response to its specific environment. The preference for depth over display, for creation over consumption, for controlled engagement over surrendered spectacle, is often the quiet imprint of a nervous system that learned exactly what it needed to feel stable, to feel safe, to maintain its quantum coherence in a complex world. One of the least discussed reasons some people never fall into sports obsession, never get pulled into that particular gravitational field, has nothing to do with emotion at all. It has to do with capacity, with the fundamental architecture of attention and the finite nature of cognitive resources. Your brain has limited cognitive real estate. There's only so much space available for deep investment, for the things you track and remember and care about and return to consistently over time. Attention isn't infinite. Consciousness isn't unlimited. Every deep engagement requires maintenance, requires energy, requires a portion of your mental bandwidth. Being a real fan, being truly invested in sports, isn't passive consumption. It requires actively learning rosters and histories and strategies. It requires memorizing statistics and rivalries and storylines that stretch across years and decades. It's not just watching a game occasionally when it's convenient. It's maintaining an elaborate mental archive, constantly updating it with new information, new developments, new chapters and ongoing narratives. For many people, that archive is already full, completely occupied. Their cognitive real estate is already allocated, already invested, already generating returns. Some minds allocate their attention very early to systems instead of spectacles. They learn how markets move, how music is structured, how tools work, how ideas connect across domains. They become students of complexity, pattern recognition, systemic thinking. Others invest deeply in mastery, in building a craft, in refining a skill, in understanding something most people skim past without a second thought. Their attention doesn't scatter across multiple domains. It consolidates. It focuses. It goes deep rather than wide. From this angle, disinterest in sports isn't a failure to engage with life or culture or collective experience. It's evidence of a prior commitment. The passion slot, the deep engagement bandwidth, is already occupied, already generating meaning, already producing something valuable. And somewhere along the way, often unconsciously, operating beneath the level of conscious decision-making, there's a calculation happening. A quantum computation, if you will. Time spent memorizing statistics versus time spent developing a capability that compounds. Emotional energy tied to outcomes you fundamentally can't influence versus energy invested where effort accumulates, where agency matters, where your choices shape results. Neither choice is morally superior. Neither path is the right one universally. But they are fundamentally different orientations, different ways of organizing consciousness and directing the finite resource of attention. People who don't follow sports haven't opted out of focus or passion or deep engagement. They haven't chosen a shallower or less meaningful existence. They've concentrated their attention. They've chosen to go deep in domains that matter to their specific configuration of consciousness. Their minds are already running long games, executing projects, pursuing mastery, building systems and understandings that don't reset every season, that don't start over from zero when the calendar changes. The stadium isn't empty. It's simply hosting something else. Something quieter perhaps, less visible, less celebrated by the collective, but no less real, no less meaningful, no less worthy of the precious quantum of attention we're each given. Understanding this reframes the entire question. It transforms it from "why don't you care" into something much more interesting. What did you care about instead? What captured your attention early enough and deeply enough that it filled the available space? What earned your deep investment? There's a neurological reason why watching sports can feel almost physical. Why it can generate bodily sensations even when you're sitting completely still, physically inactive. Inside your brain are specialized cells called mirror neurons. These remarkable structures activate not only when you perform an action yourself, but when you watch someone else perform it. They allow your consciousness to simulate experiences you're observing, to feel echoes of experiences happening to other bodies. This is why you instinctively flinch when you see someone fall. Why your muscles involuntarily tense when an athlete sprints toward the finish line. Why you might hold your breath during a penalty kick, even though you're thousands of miles away from the actual event. Neurologically, you're not just observing passively. You're simulating. You're running a quantum parallel process. When a quarterback throws a perfect pass or a striker scores a decisive goal, the same motor circuits and reward centers light up in the spectator's brain as if they were the one making the play, as if their consciousness were entangled with the athlete's experience. On some level, your brain experiences the victory as shared, as borrowed, as yours through the mechanism of identification. This is one of the powerful engines behind sports obsession. It allows people to experience triumph, mastery, excellence, without having to develop those capacities themselves. It's borrowed glory, but the neurological experience is real. The dopamine is real. The sense of achievement, however vicarious, creates genuine changes in brain chemistry. But here's the crucial part. Mirror neurons don't fire indiscriminately. They don't activate for just any human performing any action. They require identification. You have to see yourself in the person you're watching. You have to feel a psychological bridge, a sense that this could be me, or this represents me, or this embodies something I value. Without that bridge, without that sense of connection and identification, the simulation weakens dramatically. The emotional payoff never fully arrives. For people who don't obsess over sports, this system still works perfectly. The mirror neurons are functioning normally. The capacity for vicarious experience is intact. It just attaches elsewhere. It entangles with different frequencies of human experience. Their mirror neurons might light up brilliantly watching a musician execute a difficult passage with precision and feeling. Watching a craftsperson transform raw material into something precise and beautiful. Watching a thinker articulate an idea with clarity and depth that reorganizes understanding. Watching a creator bring something new into existence. The neurological surge is the same. The quantum entanglement of consciousness is identical. The target is simply different. The difference isn't emotional capacity or the ability to feel vicarious thrill. It's chosen heroes. Some people borrow their sense of motion and meaning from athletes on a field. Others borrow it from creators, builders, explorers of ideas, pioneers of new territories of understanding. The question was never whether they could feel that vicarious thrill, whether their mirror neurons function properly. It was always who they felt connected enough to, who they identified with deeply enough to feel it with. Beneath all the jokes, beneath the polite small talk and the careful nodding along, beneath the social performance of fitting in, there's a layer most people never admit to carrying, even to themselves. Shame. Not loud shame. Not the kind that announces itself. Quiet shame. The kind that shows up as a slight tightening in your chest when someone asks again, "Did you watch the game?" The kind that makes you soften your answer, makes you hedge, makes you say, "I didn't really catch it," instead of the deeper truth. "It didn't move me at all." Over time, across hundreds or thousands of these micro-interactions, these moments accumulate like sediment. You start to feel slightly misaligned with the room, like you're always half a step out of sync with what everyone else finds exciting or meaningful or worth discussing. Like you're operating at a slightly different frequency that you can't quite tune into alignment with the collective. And because humans are fundamentally social learners, because our brains are constantly scanning for patterns and trying to understand our place in the social fabric, your mind starts searching for the problem. It assumes there must be something wrong, some error in your configuration. Why don't I feel this? Why does it seem so effortless for everyone else? What's missing in me that makes this so easy for them? In a culture that treats shared enthusiasm as proof of normality, that equates collective excitement with healthy social functioning, neutrality can feel like a flaw. Disinterest gets misread as judgment, as superiority, as looking down on something others love. Silence gets mistaken for emptiness rather than for fullness directed elsewhere. And slowly, gradually, many people internalize the idea that something is fundamentally missing in them, that they're somehow incomplete, somehow failing at basic human connection. But shame thrives on misattribution. It feeds on confusion about what's actually happening. What's actually occurring isn't emotional deficiency. It isn't coldness or disconnection or inability to feel deeply. It's simply mismatch. It's a quantum incompatibility between what a culture has collectively decided is meaningful and what actually resonates with your specific frequency of consciousness. Your nervous system isn't broken. Your attention isn't cold or diminished. Your capacity for connection isn't defective. They're just not designed to light up on command for collective spectacle. They're calibrated differently. They respond to different frequencies. The shame comes from comparing internal truth to external expectation, from measuring your genuine experience against cultural norms that were never designed with your specific consciousness in mind. Once that distinction becomes truly clear, once you really understand it at a cellular level, the weight begins to lift. The shame loses its power. You're not failing to participate in life. You're participating differently, through different channels, at different frequencies. And there is nothing defective about a system that refuses to fake enthusiasm for belonging, that insists on genuine resonance as the price of engagement. It's important to say this clearly, to name it explicitly. There is nothing wrong with the way sports pull people out of their daily lives. For many, a big game is a sanctioned pause in the relentless forward motion of existence. For a few hours, work disappears. Worries soften and recede. Attention narrows to something simple and shared. Time collapses into the eternal present of the unfolding game. In psychological terms, that's absorption, a state not unlike meditation, not unlike flow. And for many people, it's genuinely healthy. It's regulating. It's restorative in important ways. But absorption, this capacity to become fully present and lose yourself in an experience, isn't exclusive to stadiums and screens and collective spectacle. People who don't follow sports aren't immune to the need for escape, aren't unable to experience absorption. They just find it through different doors, access it through different portals. In the workshop, where hours pass unnoticed while hands shape material. In the studio, where the mind becomes fully present and the outside world fades completely. In writing, in coding, in building, in any domain where consciousness can become completely absorbed in the process, where the boundary between self and activity dissolves. The difference isn't escape versus engagement, isn't passivity versus activity. It's the direction of the energy, the vector of attention. Watching a game absorbs attention outward, into someone else's performance, into outcomes determined by others. Other forms of absorption pull attention inward, into creation, into problem solving, into refinement, into the direct shaping of reality, rather than the observation of others shaping it. One consumes a finished narrative, rides along on a story someone else is telling. The other lives inside an unfolding one, participates directly in its creation. Neither path is superior in some absolute sense. They regulate different nervous systems in different ways. They serve different psychological needs, different configurations of consciousness. For some people, collective excitement restores balance, reconnects them to something larger than themselves. For others, quiet immersion, solitary creation, does the same work more effectively. What matters isn't the form. It's the effect, the sense of presence, the temporary relief from self-consciousness, the feeling that for a while, however brief, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. People who don't choose sports haven't rejected escape or absorption or deep presence. They've simply chosen forms that leave something tangible behind when the moment ends. Creation rather than consumption. Capability rather than memory. Something that compounds rather than resets. When you step back far enough to see the whole picture, when you can observe the entire landscape rather than just your immediate position within it, a quiet truth begins to settle into your bones, to crystallize in your consciousness. People who don't obsess over sports aren't standing outside of life watching it pass by from some disconnected vantage point. They're not failing to engage with the world or with other humans or with meaning itself. They're participating fully, investing deeply, just not in the most visible way. Not in the form that gets celebrated and understood by the collective. While some people invest their attention, their precious quantum of consciousness, in shared spectacles, others have invested it in slow, personal arenas that don't come with crowds or commentary. Their silence during the game isn't emptiness. It's not vacancy or disconnection. It's concentration. It's a mind turned fully toward something it finds genuinely meaningful. Toward building something, refining something, trying to understand something that won't be decided by a final score, that won't reset when the season ends, that accumulates rather than cycles. This isn't about rejecting joy or community or tradition. Most people who don't follow sports understand the appeal completely. They see it clearly. They witness the laughter, the bonding, the emotional release it gives their friends and family. They recognize it as genuine and valuable for those it serves. They just know, with a calm certainty that requires no explanation or justification, that their energy belongs somewhere else. Attention is the most valuable resource you have. It's more precious than money, more limited than time. Where you point it, consistently over years and decades, shapes not just what you accomplish, but the kind of person you become, the quality of your consciousness, the depth of your engagement with reality. Some people point their attention toward watching championships unfold, toward borrowed glory, toward the vicarious thrill of tribal victory. Others point it toward creating something that didn't exist before, toward understanding something most people overlook, toward building capabilities that compound over time. That difference doesn't make one path better than the other in some absolute cosmic sense. But it does explain, with perfect clarity, why the signal never landed for you. And more importantly, why it never needed to. Why you're not broken or deficient or missing anything essential. You're simply tuned to a different frequency, entangled with different forms of meaning, operating in a different quantum state of consciousness. And that ultimately is not just okay. It's necessary. The world needs both frequencies, both forms of engagement, both ways of being human. If this video put words to something you've felt but never quite articulated, something you've carried quietly without fully understanding it, you're genuinely not alone. There are more of us operating at this frequency than the cultural narrative suggests. I'd absolutely love to hear your experience. Drop a comment below and share where your attention naturally gravitates instead. What fills that space for you? What earned your deep investment? What activates your mirror neurons and creates that sense of absorption? These conversations matter. They help us all understand the full spectrum of human consciousness better. And if you found value in this exploration, if these kinds of conversations about the quiet patterns of the human mind resonate with you, I'd be deeply grateful if you'd consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button if this perspective connected with something real in your experience. And please, share this video with anyone you know who might benefit from hearing it, who might feel a little less alone knowing others see the world this way too. We're building a community here around exploring these spaces together, around naming things that usually go unnamed, around understanding the full spectrum of how consciousness can organize itself. Your engagement, your comments, your presence here genuinely matters. It shapes what we explore next, what questions we ask, what territories we map together. Thank you for being here, for bringing your specific frequency of consciousness to this conversation, for being exactly who you are, without apology or explanation. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the quantum mechanics of being human.